knowing that audio was probably going to come out along with additional tapes, whether they be video or audio is unclear at this particular moment in time. Shannon Sharpe felt compelled to come out in his own defense. In my perfect world, he moves on. And somehow, some way, we find this all to be false. But it doesn't seem like that's the way things are about to go down, considering who Mr. Busby is.
You sharing text messages, that's just sharing too much. We didn't want to hear about nobody getting hogtied in your bedroom and your salad getting tossed while you wearing a collar. It's too much.
Stephen A. Smith is out here celebrating, while Shannon Sharpe just got kicked to the curb by ESPN. A civil lawsuit dropped like a bomb, accusing Sharpe of disturbing behavior involving a 19-year-old OnlyFans model named Gabriella Zanigga. We're talking about allegations that include racially charged sexual roleplay, what some people are calling race play, and a $50 million legal demand that's already torched his public image.
Play, Shannon Sharpe. Race play? I didn't even want to talk about this, but the more videos I scroll past talking about Shannon Sharpe and this relationship that he had with this 19-year-old. And honestly, I was just assaulted by this information. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm scrolling, minding my business, and I see a deluge of text messages that he released from this girl that are weird and with an obvious race fetish. And it's not just her with the race fetish. He obviously was turned on by these conversations as well. And he only released what she was saying. Put a big black baby in me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. I wouldn't be surprised if she was calling him the N-word during coitus. He's into that. And if this man is turned on sexually by being racialized in such a weird way.
The internet exploded. But just when people thought things couldn't get messier, they did. Sharpe tried to clear his name by releasing personal text messages. Big mistake. Then came the ESPN fallout, a chilling statement from Stephen A. Smith, and a leaked audio clip that sent the controversy into overdrive. This wasn't just a personal scandal. It was a full-blown career implosion. And what happened behind the scenes? Let's just say it revealed way more than anyone expected. It all started with a lawsuit that didn't just raise eyebrows, it dropped jaws. Gabriella Zanigga, a 19-year-old model with an active OnlyFans account, filed a civil suit in Nevada demanding $50 million in damages from Shannon Sharpe. But it wasn't just the price tag that made headlines, it was the content. According to the legal documents, Sharpe, who's in his mid-50s, engaged in what she described as racially humiliating sexual behavior, better known online as race play. That's not something fans expected from one of the most recognizable faces in sports media. The allegations painted a disturbing picture: a much older celebrity allegedly paying a girl for activities while taking part in role-play scenarios centered on race-based degradation. That's not just controversial, it's career-killing. Especially when your employer is ESPN, a network owned by Disney, a company that thrives on a squeaky clean image. The timing couldn't have been worse, and Sharpe's reputation took an instant hit. But instead of staying quiet and letting his legal team handle the fallout, Sharpe decided to play offense. And that's when things really started spiraling. Sharpe thought he could get ahead of the story by releasing screenshots of private text messages between him and Gabriella. Maybe he believed it would make him look like the mature one, the victim of manipulation or clout chasing. But the content of those texts didn't help his case. They made it worse. In fact, they exposed an even darker layer to the situation. In the messages, Gabriella uses phrases like, "put a big black baby in me," and "baby gravy," terms so bizarre and specific that many believe they were guided or encouraged by Sharpe himself. Critics were quick to point out that these weren't random girl slips of the tongue. These were phrases reflecting someone's fetish, and the age and power dynamic made it even more unsettling. Instead of shutting down speculation, the texts poured gasoline on the fire. People started asking harder questions. Was this a young woman being influenced to say things she barely understood? Was Sharpe grooming her for a very specific, very disturbing kind of interaction? Whatever his intent, the public perception was brutal. And as the backlash grew, Sharpe's attempts to manage the narrative only made him look more desperate. But that wasn't even the final straw, because behind the scenes, his employers had already seen enough. While Sharpe was busy trying to salvage his image, ESPN was already making its move. Publicly, he claimed he was temporarily stepping away from his role on First Take, but insiders quickly revealed that wasn't the full story. According to multiple sources, Sharpe was quietly let go, not with a dramatic firing, but with a silent corporate execution. ESPN, owned by Disney, wasn't about to let a scandal like this stain their brand.
This 3-time Super Bowl champion and this Hall of Famer, who emphatically stated to me over the phone how innocent he is of these allegations that have been levied against him, insisting repeatedly that anything you read, anything you see, anything you hear was fully and totally consensual. In the same breath, what's inescapable is that without us knowing all the merits, he was working with Disney, where I've worked since 2003, excluding.
Behind closed doors, the network effectively cut ties with Sharpe. There was no official statement, no grand send-off, just a soft ban and a firm internal message. He was done. Disney's brand isn't built for controversy, especially not this kind. Their tolerance for public embarrassment is zero, and Sharpe's situation checked every box for reputational disaster. Racial dynamics, power imbalances, sexual exploitation, and a girl at the center, it was toxic. What made it even more striking was how fast it all happened. One day he was sparring with Stephen A. Smith on air, and the next, he was a ghost. But speaking of Stephen A., he wasn't going to take the fall for any of this. And his response, it was as cold as it was calculated. Stephen A. Smith was the one who brought Shannon Sharpe on First Take, personally vouched for him, hyped him up, and gave him a second wind in sports media. So when the scandal broke, people expected Stephen A. to either stand by his guy or completely distance himself. What they got instead was something far more slippery. On his podcast, Smith addressed the controversy with a tone that seemed sympathetic on the surface, but if you listened closely, his words were loaded with quiet condemnation.
Shannon Sharpe is somebody that I brought to ESPN. To be clear, even though this podcast, this YouTube show is owned and operated by me solely, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be dismissive of ESPN.
He didn't outright trash Sharpe, but he made it clear that Disney's standards weren't negotiable. Once you become a liability, he said, there's no coming back. Then came the real hit, a subtle jab at Sharpe's age and judgment. Smith called the situation reckless, noting that a man of Sharpe's stature and experience should have known better. It wasn't a rant, it wasn't a roast, it was worse. It was surgical. Stephen A. distanced himself with precision, making sure he kept his own image intact while allowing Sharpe to twist in the wind. No defense, no solidarity, just cold professionalism wrapped in polite concern. And while fans were still trying to figure out how real the lawsuit was, something even more damaging surfaced. An audio clip that took the whole thing to a new level. Just when it looked like the scandal had peaked, a new twist emerged, and it was bad. A leaked audio clip hit the internet, allegedly capturing Sharpe saying he would choke Gabriella in public. Whether it was real or taken out of context didn't even matter at that point. The optics were catastrophic. People heard those words and immediately connected them to everything else. The lawsuit, the roleplay accusations, the leaked texts. It didn't sound like a misunderstanding. It sounded like a man spiraling. Sharpe tried to walk it back, suggesting it was all part of consensual roleplay, that the clip was taken out of context. But in the court of public opinion, that defense didn't land. The racial and power dynamics were already so loaded that adding violent language, even in a supposed game, made the entire situation impossible to justify. This wasn't just a man with questionable taste. It was a man in a position of influence, being reckless with someone significantly younger, and possibly manipulating that imbalance for his own gratification. Viewers were shocked, but some weren't surprised, because apparently Sharpe had already been warned about the path he was heading down, and ignored it. Long before the lawsuit, the texts, or the audio leak, people close to Sharpe had tried to warn him. On his own show, Club Shay Shay, comedian Cat Williams and actress Monique had both touched on topics that now feel eerily prophetic. In separate interviews, they urged Sharpe to be cautious about dating much younger women and getting involved in high-risk relationships, especially in the public eye.
Grateful I'm not 56 and trying.
You tried to say what you tried to say.
I'm looking right at you.
I know you looking at your
I ain't backing down. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I do.
This is your auntie talking to you. Take your old and get you an old out there that can love you old. You trying to hang out with these young you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it.
Cat Williams, known for his brutal honesty, didn't sugarcoat it. He warned Sharpe about the complications that come with interracial dating when you're famous, particularly when your partner is significantly younger and not from your world. Monique, on the other hand, went the maturity route, encouraging Sharpe to seek relationships with women closer to his age who understood life and weren't just chasing clout. At the time, the conversations seemed harmless, funny even, but now, in the context of everything that's come out, those clips have resurfaced and gone viral. Fans are calling them warnings he chose to ignore. Instead of heeding the advice, Sharpe kept moving in the opposite direction. And now, people are saying he set himself up for this crash. Still, Sharpe wasn't ready to accept full responsibility. Instead, he pivoted to a different kind of defense. One that people have heard before, but in this case, it didn't hold up. In an attempt to shift the narrative, Sharpe tried to draw parallels between his situation and that of hip-hop mogul Jay-Z. He pointed to the media's tendency to scrutinize successful black men, suggesting that he, too, was being unfairly targeted. He even singled out Tony Busby, the attorney representing Gabriella, accusing him of having a pattern of going after high-profile black figures. The implication was clear: this wasn't about justice. It was about taking down another successful black man.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine.
But here's where the defense collapsed. People weren't buying it, not this time. The scandal at the heart of Sharpe's downfall wasn't just a vague accusation or a questionable misunderstanding. It was specific, graphic, and deeply tied to racial dynamics that Sharpe himself allegedly helped create. Trying to lean on the "they're targeting me because I'm black" angle rang hollow when the entire controversy centered around racially charged sexual behavior, initiated by him. Fans called it hypocritical. Commentators slammed it as a deflection. Even some supporters who had stood by Sharpe during previous controversies stepped back, unable to defend the actions he was now being accused of. Instead of clearing his name, the comparison to Jay-Z made him look like he was hiding behind someone else's legacy, using cultural trauma to shield himself from personal accountability. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, the final blow didn't come from the media or the courts. It came from the public. The internet didn't just react to Sharpe's scandal. It dissected it, memed it, and turned it into a full-blown cultural moment. On The Petty Show, the host didn't hold back, calling Sharpe irresponsible, out of touch, and a textbook example of what happens when men in power chase youth instead of maturity. But it wasn't just a hit piece. It tapped into something deeper. This wasn't just about Shannon Sharpe. It was about the broader issue of older, influential men pursuing vulnerable, younger women, and the consequences when those dynamics are ignored or exploited. Viewers started re-examining past interviews, pulling old clips, and asking hard questions about who gets protected in the media and who gets exposed. The scandal became a flashpoint, not just in sports media, but in conversations about consent, race, and celebrity entitlement. Sharpe had become a symbol, not of success, but of unchecked ego. It didn't matter that he once held court on First Take, or that millions followed him on social media. All of that influence vanished in the face of public disgust, and while some tried to defend him, the majority made it clear. This wasn't to cancel culture. It was consequences. Because in a world where everything gets recorded, archived, and replayed, your reputation is only as strong as your worst decision. And for Shannon Sharpe, that decision may have cost him everything. Was this culture gone too far, or was Sharpe finally held accountable? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more real stories the mainstream media won't tell you.